A young couple are the target of a random home invasion by three ruthless mask wearing people. Sound familiar? Well, I'm here to talk about The Strangers Chapter 1 from 2024. Oh man, so much to say here. First off, I really shouldn't be here. I get so much more out of reviewing stuff that nobody's, really talking about rather than trying to talk about movies that everyone's talking about. That said, this movie was directed by Renny Harlin, known for Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Die Hard 2, Adventures of Ford Fairlane, never heard anyone talk about that one, Cliffhanger, and A Long Kiss Goodnight, among a lot of other stuff. It stars Madeleine, I'm not sure. I'll say Madeleine Pesh and Ryan Boune, I can't say either of these names, as the two leads, and I was completely unfamiliar with both of them. And I knew that Richard Brake was going to be in this, which I was excited for because I really loved him in Barbarian. But you only see him, I believe, once, and he had no lines. This is going to be a trilogy, though, after all, so I imagine we'll be seeing more of him in the next two installments. I definitely have mixed feelings about this as a trilogy, but I don't have much invested, really, since I've never really been a fan of the Strangers franchise necessarily. Like many other people, I saw the original back in 2008, and it didn't really do much for me, but I've been meaning to rewatch it. It's been on my list of things to rewatch. And I haven't seen the 2018 sequel, The Strangers Prey at Night, but I intend to at some point. And before we go any further, let's address the elephant in the room, that is the 13% Rotten Tomatoes score. I'm not a huge follower of the Rotten Tomatoes site, but that is one of the lowest scores I think I've ever seen. So I think the question is, do I think this film deserves that score? Well, let's see. Like a lot of people, apparently, I originally thought this was going to be a prequel story. With the Chapter 1 title, I guess I'm just being transparent because I guess I just completely jumped to conclusions. And that idea did intrigue me, but my thoughts were that The Strangers didn't need an origin story because the appeal to it, is that you really don't know anything about the killers and you aren't supposed to. So yeah, this is not a prequel, but a remake, because, of course. And though I am still curious to see just exactly what will go down in the next two installments, this is not a strong start to the trilogy, at all. I mean, so far, this being the first chapter of the trilogy is the only potentially redeeming factor, because otherwise we just have another generic remake that adds, absolutely no ideas of its own. There were a few minor changes, but they're so minor that they aren't even really worth mentioning. We have the two leads here, Maya and Jeff, a couple on a road trip to Portland, Oregon to check out a job opportunity that Maya is interested in. As they pass through a small town called Venus, they decide to stop at a diner to get some food. And this is just minutes into the film, and I have already decided that these characters are completely unlikable. I mean, I assume this was not really intended, but who knows? I think it's partially due to the lame script, but I also thought that these two actors are as plain and generic as it gets. Don't get me wrong, these are professional working actors, but they just reminded me of your average, early 2000s unknown horror movie actors. Just faceless and forgettable, really. And everything about the town of Venus is just so over the top. All the locals seem super hostile towards Maya and Ryan for no reason at all, other than, they don't live there. And as they get back in their car to continue their trip, the car won't start randomly. The mechanic from the auto shop right next door just kind of out of the blue taps on the window and offers to fix it for them. Now, Ryan is immediately suspicious. They've been treated like trash ever since their arrival, and he tells the mechanic to his face that he's being scammed. And Maya jumps in to, kind of defuse the situation, which, honestly, I thought totally made sense. And it's already getting late. The repairs will need to be done in the morning, so they rent an Airbnb for the night, and if you've seen the original Strangers, you pretty much know how the rest plays out. There are no surprises here. So I stated what I didn't like here, but I want to be fair, and there are a few things a few positive things that I could say, I guess. That said, this will be short. So first, it's a pretty well shot film. Renny Harlin knows what he's doing. I kind of like the night scenes where the leads are being chased through the woods. It was a cool look. It suited the film. And I also realized that I really liked the look of the masked killers, especially the big dude with the axe and the sack head. I mean, he's got a very imposing demeanor, even if his look is super generic. I also wanted to address the actions of the two leads here. I'm noticing that all the reviews for this criticize them pretty heavily, I'd say. And I'm not necessarily arguing, but I think that's I think it's slightly overblown. I mean, sure, they make mistakes, but you probably would too in their position. The last question I'll ask today is this film deserving of a 13% Rotten Tomatoes score? My answer is no. I think that's fairly exaggerated. I'm giving The Strangers Chapter 1 a 5 out of 10. It was entertaining enough, and I'm curious to see the next two installments, but I can't really recommend this. Cheers, guys.